The Buffalo Bills this season came to an end a little earlier than we expected. While I do have a lot of optimism for the Buffalo Bills for the 2024 season, and I am happy for what we have achieved so far this season, there's a few things that the media has been portraying over the last couple of hours, especially this morning. We've heard a lot from the NFL insiders. I won't name them to be exact, but there's a lot of insiders and a lot of trolls that have talked about the Buffalo Bills over the last 24 hours. We'll get into that and more today on the Overreaction Monday on the Go Bills podcast. Welcome in, Bills Mafia. Welcome back to another edition of the Overreaction Monday on the Go Bills podcast presented by GoBillsPodcast.com. I am your host and founder of the page, Brett McDurphy. Glad to be with you on this Monday evening to talk about the Buffalo Bills. And it's been a wonderful season for the Buffalo Bills overall. Disappointment can be said about what we have achieved. We did have high expectations to begin the season. But towards the middle of the season, the Bills hit a little bit of a rocky road, and we saw what happened. And they ended up finishing out the season and going to the playoffs, winning the division. And they made it to the divisional round, closing out the season. And that is where they lie. Losing last night 27-24 against the Kansas City Chiefs in a game that was probably one of the games to remember of the season so far. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on all social media platforms. You can see them listed below. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and many other social media platforms. But you can also find us on our website, GoBillsPodcast.com. Well, what we saw last night was definitely not what we wanted to have for the end of the season. But I do want to take a moment real quick to thank all of our sponsors, as well as all of our fans that have contributed so much to the content that we have shared with you throughout the season. It's been an incredible honor to work with guys like Jake Podger, Mike Fortin, Sean Kula, and other people as well. But I do want to take a moment to thank them, as well as all the fans that have interacted with us throughout the whole entire season. While we will have a lot more content coming up throughout the year, we are going to take a little bit of a break after this episode. We'll take about a week or so off, get into some new stuff that we're going to talk about, such as free agency, draft coverage, as well as some other stuff that we're going to do, like trivia nights, as well as a few other scenarios that we'll have. But let's talk about, number one, the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I want to mention this a lot. This game was one of the better offensive performances that I felt like that we saw. And I felt like a lot of the players on offense stepped up in their roles. Guys like James Cook, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid. I felt like they had great games yesterday. But there's a couple of plays that the Bills would want back, definitely. And there's a few times where the Bills got a little bit too aggressive in their game plan, in my opinion. So let's get into that and let's talk about this game. But I also want to get into what the media has said about the Buffalo Bills. So first, I'm going to start with what the media has said about the Bills. And I want you to know that you should not listen to what the media is saying. There are a lot of trolls out there, especially people that dropped into my DM after the game. Yes, you're going to hear stuff like the wide right. You're going to hear other things, such as, oh, the Bills can't win the big games. They can't beat Patrick Mahomes. They can't do this. They can't do that. We're going to shut the haters up very soon. Don't get me wrong. The Bills are a very good team. They have a good owner. They have a good fan base. They have great head coach, great GM. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's no other person in the world that I'd want on my team than QB 17. And there's no other wide receiver that I'd want on this team than Stephon Diggs. They played good yesterday. Stephon just had a couple passes that he didn't catch, unfortunately. But I'll tell you what, I'm still confident in the team that we have. I'm confident in who we have in the building at head coach and GM and on at quarterback and at wide receiver. I think that everybody that we have on this roster is going to be good. And there's going to be faces that go. There's going to be faces that stay. But I think that this is one of the better teams in the NFL. And you're not going to see anybody else come into the game like QB 17 and have so much reassurance for us. Battlehawk Superfan coming in saying, can I air some grievances? You're more than welcome to. I understand completely. This is one of those games where, or one of those channels where you can talk about anything that you want. John Robert coming into the chat saying, go Bills. Completely agree. I'm not giving up on our Bills. I'm going to tell you that right now. They're one of the teams that I think is one of the best teams in the NFL, one of the best run organizations. But let's talk about what some of the insiders have said. And this is something that is outrageous. It's trolling. It's just honestly something that is absolutely awful to hear. And I'm disappointed in what the media has said. I won't get into the names of people that have been out there, but a lot of people have said, number one, that the Bills need to fire Sean McDermott. And I understand that some people that are Bills fans, you may think that Sean McDermott's not the answer. Understandable. Completely understand what you're saying. But what I will say is this. Sean McDermott is one of the best head coaches in the NFL, period. And you're not going to find a better head coach out there on the market. There's people that are talking about getting a guy like even Bill Belichick or going after Mike Vrabel or scenarios like that. That's not going to be the best case. Sean McDermott in his career is 73-41 overall, 5-6 in the playoffs overall. But let's go over his track record, okay? And let's talk about what he has done for the Buffalo Bills. We'll start in 2017 with the first team that he had, where he had Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. He took the team 9-7, second place in the AFC East. They did go to the playoffs that year. They lost in the wild card game to the Jacksonville Jaguars that year. Fast forward to 2018, in a season that we had Josh Allen as a rookie quarterback. Starting off slow overall in the year, the Bills finished 6-10 overall, third place in the AFC East, and they did not go to the playoffs. That was the only year that Sean McDermott has not been to the playoffs with the Buffalo Bills in his career. He finished the next year in 2019, 10-6, second place in the AFC East, losing in the wild card round to the Houston Texans. Fast forward to 2022, taking the team 13-3, finishing in first place in the AFC East, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. The next season, finishing 11-6 overall in the 2021 season. They did go to the divisional round, winning one game, losing another one, going to the divisional round of the playoffs, and they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. 2022, finishing 13-3 overall that season, going to the divisional round again, losing to the Cincinnati Bengals in a game. And that was probably better results than we ever would have expected from the Buffalo Bills, especially after the situations that happened with DeMar Hamlin. You never know what type of team that you're going to get. 2023, 11-6 overall. After going 6-6 that season, they finished 5-0 after that, winning against the Miami Dolphins and then going to play against winning against the Steelers. I apologize because I'm thinking of the last game of the season. But winning against the Miami Dolphins to take the division. Then they play the Steelers in the playoffs at home, winning that game. Then they play against the against the Kansas City Chiefs. And they lost that game by 3 points, and their season comes to an end. But overall, 5-6 in the playoffs, 73-41 overall career as a head coach of the Buffalo Bills. That is a pretty good number from what they have. I do want to get to the chat real quick because there's a few comments that have come in real fast that I want to get into. We do have a few people coming in, John Robert, as well as Battlehawk Superfan, Jake Podger coming in as well. Do want to get to everything that's being said real quick. Battlehawk Superfan coming in saying, Trent Sherfield, how can you not catch? John Robert coming in saying, believe. Battlehawk Superfan coming in, why can't Diggs catch ball right in his arms? I'm always team Diggs, but now I'm mad. That's completely understandable. Jake Podger coming in saying, love you, Brett, dropping in to say what's up. Love you, man, and I can't wait to do more content with you throughout the year, man. John Roberts saying, ignore the media. I hear it a lot. Battlehawk Superfan coming in saying, most Americans can catch a perfectly thrown deep ball. He is getting $100 million or more because he is supposed to be able to catch the ball. He's also saying, I'm furious, Jake, from denial to anger stage, and that's completely understandable. I understand where you're coming from as a fan. Battlehawk Superfan saying, loves McDermott, but we need to finally get a number one wide receiver. Jake Podger saying, I feel you, brother. It's a tough day. Definitely sad and mad. I completely understand where you're coming from. John Roberts saying, take the interim tag off of Joe Brady. Battlehawk Superfan saying, I don't need time settles. I think he's talking about Tim Settles, actually. Jake Podger coming in saying, love Sean McDermott, the man. Hard to imagine the team without him. I'm conflicted about it all. That's understandable. Battlehawk Superfan coming in saying the fake punt was completely idiotic. I completely understand where you're coming from. It was a terrible decision. Exactly what Jake says. Battlehawk Superfan coming in saying, don't see any reason you couldn't, if you want to sign Hyde, another year with him, but safeties are easy to replace. We need cornerback depth, trade Tre'Davious White. John Roberts saying, I doubt they will have the cap space to keep Gabe Davis and AJ Epinesa. So yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later too. Battlehawk Superfan saying, second year in a row, the entire D-line disappeared in the divisional round. So we're getting caught up right there with everything that has been said, which is understandable. But let's get into this game against the Kansas City Chiefs. I do want to get to everything that happened in that game. It was a game starting off where we expected to see fireworks on offense each way, and it came down to which defense could stop the other defense, and that happened quite often throughout, or not quite often throughout the game, but it happened a couple of times throughout the game. A couple of times where there's 3 and outs in the situations, but it also came down to field position, and I think that's one of the things that the Bills struggled with, and especially after time, I thought about it a little bit more, and I felt like the Chiefs ended up with very good field position every time the Bills punted, and there's 2 punts that Sam Martin hit, one going for 40 yards, one going for 39 yards, and I could just tell that he was not healthy going out there. Let's go over the game, though. Let's go do an overview of the game, starting with the scoring summary. Let's start with the field goal by Tyler Bass, 27-yard field goal with 8 minutes and 8 seconds left to go in the first quarter, followed by a Harrison Butker 47-yard field goal to make it 3-all. In the second quarter, with 13 minutes, 32 seconds left in the quarter, Josh Allen, 5-yard touchdown run with Tyler Bass kicking the extra point, making it 10-3 for the Buffalo Bills. Harrison Butker coming down the field with the Kansas City Chiefs, kicking a 29-yard field goal to make it 10-6, followed by a Travis Kelce 22-yard touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes, with Harrison Butker kicking the extra point 13-10. We thought that was going to be it for the Bills on offense, but instead, Josh Allen comes in with a 2-yard touchdown run, Tyler Bass kicking the extra point, making it 17-13 at halftime. We were expecting the Chiefs to probably double dip before halftime, and they could have been up even more, but that was the case where Jordan Poyer knocked that ball out of the end zone, putting the Bills in a position to get back into the game. Travis Kelce comes out of the halftime, catching a 3-yard touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes. Harrison Butker kicking the extra point, making it 20-17. Khalil Shakir comes down the field with the Buffalo Bills, hitting a 13-yard touchdown pass from Josh Allen. Tyler Bass kicking the extra point, making it 24-20 for the Buffalo Bills. In the fourth quarter, Isaiah Pacheco hits a 4-yard touchdown run, making it 27-24 for the Kansas City Chiefs. And Harrison Butker kicking the extra point to end the game for the Buffalo Bills and their season. That is the scoring summary of what we saw, but there was opportunities for the Bills to go down the field as well. Pamela Smith coming into the chat saying, good game. That I appreciate you for tuning into the chat as well. Let's go over to some of the other comments that were in here as well. Battlehawk Superfan saying, second year in a row, the entire defensive line disappeared in the divisional round. Also, Battlehawk Superfan saying, don't want AJ no-show or no-show Gabe. Groot and Floyd disappeared, as well as the other edge always gone. We need to have Dawson drop, take a huge pay cut, or send him out. Battlehawk Superfan also saying that Marcel Aitman, who was a wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills before the season began, and he was in training camp with the Bills, has re-signed with the Battlehawks. That's interesting to see. John Roberts saying that Micah Hyde may retire. I've heard that rumor as well. And I've also heard another rumor from a locker cleanout that possibly even Jordan Phillips may retire as well. Marquez Stevenson signed with the Brahmas. That is interesting to see too. Let's go over the stats for the game. Number one, I want to get to the stats for the game. I'm going to pull them up real quick, but let's go over the player stats and game leaders for this game. Patrick Mahomes leading the way with touchdowns, passes, as well as passing yards in the game, finishing the game 17 of 23, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, with Josh Allen going 26 of 39, 186 yards in the game. Isaiah Pacheco finishing the game for the Chiefs, 15 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen leading the way, 12 carries, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce leading receivers for the Chiefs, 5 catches for 75 yards as well as 2 touchdowns. Dalton Kincaid, 5 catches for 45 yards. Let's go over to the team stats real quick. I do want to get to that. Also want to pull up something else as well, because we did have some news about reserve/future signings for the Buffalo Bills, and I do want to get into that as well in a minute. As you can see, that was uploaded to the computer here. I will get to that in just a second, but we will have another a couple of seconds where we'll talk about the team stats. Total yards for the game, the Bills leading the way, 368 yards to 361 yards. Passing yards, 215 for the Chiefs, 186 for the Bills. Rushing yards, 182 for the Bills, 146 for the Chiefs. Yards per play, which was a big category that I think that the Chiefs did a great job in, 7.7 yards per play, 4.7 for the Buffalo Bills. That was led also by 6.2 rushing yards per play from the Kansas City Chiefs. Total first downs, 27 for the Buffalo Bills, 21 for the Chiefs. The Bills were 7 of 14 on third down efficiency, 1 of 5 on third down for the Chiefs. On fourth down, the Bills were 2 of 3, and the Chiefs did not go for it on fourth down. 78 total plays on offense for the Bills, 47 for the Chiefs. 0 sacks in the game, which was an incredible stat. 2 punts for the Bills, 1 for the Chiefs. Total penalties, 5 penalties for 28 yards for the Bills, 2 for 15 for the Chiefs. 1 fumble lost for the Chiefs, none for the Bills. 0 interceptions thrown. And the biggest stat overall, if you look at this game, 37 minutes of time of possession for the Bills, 23 about for the Chiefs. So those are big numbers to think about. And the Bills led in pretty much every category, and they didn't finish the job. Battlehawk Superfan coming in saying Von Miller finished with 5 tackles, 0 sacks, $3 million a tackle, which is understandable. I get where your pain's coming from, man. I really do. Let's get into one other thing that I do want to pull up on here, which is important to note, and that is the free agency signings that we saw from the Buffalo Bills today. And there's a few names that come to mind on this list, and I do want to get to a few of them, but some are familiar faces, some aren't. Let's go over them real quick. Future signings that we did see, and I will take my this out of there so that you can see it a little better. But future signings that we did see today, cornerback Kyron Brown, as well as defensive end Cameron Klein, Richard Garage, KJ Hamler, who was with the Denver Broncos for a few years, has now been signed by the Buffalo Bills. Familiar faces in Jamarcus Ingram and Andy Isabella, who was called up for this game today. Kevin Jarvis, as well as Trey McKitty. Tyrell Shavers, who played for the Chargers a couple of years back. Brian Thompson, as well as Kendall Williamson, all have been signed by the Buffalo Bills as future/reserve signings for the 2024 season. It'll be interesting to see these battles that we will have in training camp of the 2024 season. Let's go over to the chat real quick on YouTube. Hardy Mid from Battlehawk Superfan, completely understandable where you're coming from on that. I do want to get to one other thing that we will mention, which is the NFL draft, and we will talk about where the Bills will draft in order so far. All but 4 spots have been filled. The Bills will have the 28th pick in the 2024 NFL draft. They have current team needs of cornerback, safety, defensive tackle, edge, wide receiver, and linebacker, according to CBS. Notable free agents that they do have: safety Micah Hyde, edge rusher Leonard Floyd, running back Damian Harris, as well as Gabe Davis, Shaq Lawson, and AJ Epinesa are free agents this season. The Bills will be about $48 million over the cap to start the season, depending on where the salary cap range is. And they are going to have to make some tough decisions, possibly some restructures, but they're also going to have to hit on their draft picks, which is going to be very important this season. They're going to have to do a very good job of hitting on these draft picks, because this is the year that Josh Allen's big contract is going to kick in, and his salary is going to go up to about $44 million, and they're going to have to do a good job of hitting these draft picks, getting guys that can come in and fill positions that we will need to fill as well. John Robert also mentioning that we will need to extend Russo coming up as well. That is going to be important, but he does have a couple of years left on his deal, so that'll be interesting to see, because he was a first-round pick for the Buffalo Bills. He can sign or can have his contract extended for a 5th year, so we do have 2 more years potentially with Greg Russo before we will have to sign him. So I think that that's something that we can think about after this season, the 2024 season coming up. We can sign him after that and then agree to a contract extension. But there's going to be some moves that the Bills will have to make. I do want to go over the cap real quick, talk about some of the biggest salaries that the Bills will have this coming up off season, which is going to be important to talk about. The Bills currently sit at about $44 million, according to Over the Cap, where they're going to be sitting at. They do have some money that they could roll over to the next season. That number is to be determined, because we did have some late signings that we did have to make. Currently, the Bills do have 44 players on their salary for the 2024 season. That's not including some of the signings that we did have today. So that number will obviously be up higher. Overall, biggest salaries for the 2024 season is going to be Josh Allen. He does have a cap number of, I apologize, $47 million. Stephon Diggs, $27 million. Von Miller, $23 million, just about $24 million. Deion Dawkins, $16 million. So that could be an option for the Bills, is to sign him to a contract extension. Tre'Davious White, $16 million, which I do believe that they will restructure some of that contract. Dawson Knox is sitting at about $14 million. Matt Milano, $12 million. Taron Johnson, $12 million as well. Mitch Morse, $11.5 million. Rasul Douglas, $9.973 million. Ed Oliver, $9.725 million. Connor McGovern, $7.9 million. Jordan Poyer, $7.2 million. I'm sorry, $7.72 million. And there are other numbers as well with Deontay Hardy, as well as Ryan Bates and Nyheim Hines. So the biggest salaries that could be dropped for the Bills coming up, Tre'Davious White has a number of $6.1 million that the Bills could save on the salary cap if they do release him as a pre-June 1st cut. Taron Johnson as well, $7.7 million that they would save. Mitch Morse, $8.5 million. Rasul Douglas, $9.973 million that they could save by cutting him, which I doubt that the Bills will do. Connor McGovern, $1.9 million. As well as Jordan Poyer's $5.72 million that they could save. Deontay Hardy, $4 million. Ryan Bates, $1.4 million. As well as Nyheim Hines, $4.6 million that the Bills can save. So those are the players that I do believe could be cap casualties for the Buffalo Bills coming forward in the next couple of weeks. Let's go over the chat real quick with Battlehawk Super Fan saying Trent gone. He is a free agent as well. Hardy can be cut. Definitely agree. What to do with Hines? I do believe that they will try and work something out, but they will have to get that number significantly less. John Robert coming in saying 11 on futures contracts, as well as Tre'Davious White is still there, if he's still there. Battlehawk Superfan saying how to get rid of Knox. That's going to be tough. John Roberts saying last year for Morris contract. I do think he's mentioning Morris. You can save a ton by cutting Poyer. I do think that some of these moves, we could have some restructures as well as some contract extensions that we could see. I do want to talk about restructures, how the Bills can save some money there. The Bills can save $23 million by restructuring Josh Allen's contract, $13 million by saving Stephon Diggs' contract, or restructuring his contract. Von Miller, $12 million. Deion Dawkins, about $6 million, I should say. Tre'Davious White, $4.5 million. And Matt Milano, $2.4 million. As well as Rasul Douglas, if they did do a contract restructure, they could save $6.25 million by adding on possibly another void year in his contract. Ed Oliver, $4 million. And Connor McGovern, $3.1 million as well. So we could have saved some money. We're talking about possibly even close to about $65 million, somewhere in that range, by doing some restructures, creating some cap. That would put us at $22 million over or under the cap. So the Bills would have some money to make some moves in free agency. The Bills will have a ton of players coming out of free agency too. We did get to the biggest ones as well, but the Bills will have a ton of free agents. Names that I didn't mention: Micah Hyde, Leonard Floyd, Daquan Jones, Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips, who's possibly going to retire, Tyler Matakevich, Linval Joseph, Poona Ford, Tyrell Dodson, Dane Jackson, Taylor Rapp, Trent Sherfield, Damian Harris, David Edwards, AJ Epinesa, Latavius Murray, Shaq Lawson, Kyle Allen, Cam Lewis, who I know a lot of people like Trek Reviewer, who's on Nickel City Mafia, mentioned that they cannot wait for him to be cut, but that's on him. Ty Johnston, Gabe Davis, as well as Quentin Morris, who's an executive rights free agent. Quentin Morris is, so we could see him back. But I do want to get to a couple of things as well that we will talk about as the contract comes up. Or I'm sorry, as contracts come up. But there is going to be some players that we will see that leave the Bills. And I do want to get to this point because this is an important one for those that are watching. It's a sad day to see some of these players go. It's one of the hardest things to see. And I hate seeing players leave the team, but we will have a passing of the torch for players coming either way. And we'll see what happens for the Buffalo Bills. But I'm going to also open it up to the chat a little bit more. If there's anything that they want to talk about, put it in the comments section below. I would greatly appreciate that. Battlehawk Superfan coming in saying, I personally would have cut Bass 2 weeks ago. Also saying, why does the punter with wrecked hamstring screw us so bad? John Roberts saying they probably bring back Jones for at least one season. I could definitely see that. Maybe re-sign Dodson. I would love to see that move as well. That's it. Leonard Floyd and Daquan Jones, possibly. Yeah, that Leonard Floyd contract is going to be tough, but we'll see what happens there. There's a ton of free agents that we can talk about later on. We will definitely get into free agent talk. We're going to start off with the guys that we could re-sign. We'll talk about them more and more. And we'll do a free agent profile for each player, and then we will switch over to free agent targets that the Bills can make, as well as draft coverage in the next couple of weeks. But we do want to get into a few other things as well, like I talked about the trivia night, as well as a few other topics that we will have. We're always going to have the Sunday sit down on Sundays. That'll kick off this Sunday. We do apologize that it was supposed to kick off over the divisional round, but unfortunately the video was having a little bit of trouble with trying to reschedule the guest, as well as getting into editing mode. So we do have to get into the editing stage, but that will air on Sunday. We're going to try and air that around 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to get that done, but we will have that video out to you as soon as possible. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on all social media platforms. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, as well as Threads. Real quick, I do want to get to a comment that just came in from Battlehawk Superfan saying, can Vaughn make an injury settlement and get off cap, or are we stuck? I don't know about that. That's a good question. I'll look into that, Battlehawk Superfan, and I'll try and find an answer for you, but you stumped me on that one. I don't know the medical terminology for the NFL, but I will get into that, and I will find an answer for you. I don't want to give you the wrong answer. My parents always told me, if you don't know an answer, don't lie and say that you know an answer. And they've also told me when it's a topic that you don't know too much about, they tell me that if you don't talk so much, people wouldn't know you're stupid. That's a topic that my dad says a lot about. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that one, but I'll find an answer for you on that as well. But we will definitely have more coverage throughout the week, as well as more coverage later on next week. You can always find all of the shows that we will have on our website, GoBillsPodcast.com. Click on over to that website under the NFL schedule, as well as the podcast schedule. You can find all of our shows that we will have throughout the week. Also saying that you are a smart looking dude. That's a good thing to say, but I think that's more of Jake Podger. He's a little better looking than me. I'm going to be honest with you. I think you got the wrong guy, Battlehawk Superfan. But I do appreciate those comments. But we appreciate everybody for joining us in the chat. Don't forget to like this video on YouTube as well as on Facebook. Click on over, share the video as well. I would greatly appreciate that. Anybody that likes the video, it helps us get more interaction throughout the videos. So we would greatly appreciate you for joining us and sharing as well. Don't forget to click that notification bell. You can find all of our shows that we will have throughout the week. If you click that notification bell, you'll be notified 30 minutes prior to every show that we will have. This has been the Go Bills podcast. We will see you next time for another edition of the Go Bills podcast. Until then, Go Bills.